So welcome everyone to our information session today on the ACMS Mongolia Field School 2023. We'll take a few minutes here while people are joining us. And we're just getting people to put in the chat where you're located. And maybe you can say which class you might be interested in. We have the instructors from all of the classes who are joining us today. And just to let you know, we're going to be just going over first some background and general information about the field school. If you have any questions, you can put your questions into the chat area and we'll address your questions. You can also raise your hand if you have a specific question you want to ask. If it's something very specific for yourself, your application, then we'd be happy to follow up with you and have a chat with you as well about your situation, maybe even after the session, after we stop the recording. But feel free to post any questions that you have. So this is our Mongolia Field School 2023. We had our first version in 2019, which went very well. 2020, we had a lot of people planning to come. We had our courses lined up, everything was going ahead, and of course, in spring 2020, the pandemic hit and everything closed down. So we were unable to offer the field school in 2020, but in 2021, we had an online field school. You can go to our website and there's some ways that you can access the links to the online courses. So we recorded those courses and you can see the recorded courses. Those were offered through different web lectures and discussions that were held. So the information from those courses is on our website for 2021. In 2022, we had a couple of classes which ran in Mongolia. Information on each of the previous years and the courses that we offered is available there on the website. And then for 2023, we're going to go over the 3 classes that we have in 2 different sessions this summer. So we'll be showing some pictures. These are pictures from some of the previous, the field school classes. On this first pictures, you can see some of the teams out in the field. That's actually near the Eg-Ur, in northern Mongolia, where will be a couple of the classes we'll be visiting again this year. And then the Ger camp, the type of Ger camp that we'll be staying at when people go to the field as well. Okay, a little bit of background about the ACMS. If you haven't heard about the ACMS, we are been around since 2002. So we just had our 20th anniversary and we've been open in Mongolia since 2004 when I was a Fulbright scholar. So I'm Charles Krusekopf. I helped founded the ACMS and I've worked with the ACMS ever since. I'm a professor originally from the US, but now living in Canada for the last 20 years because I met my Canadian wife in Mongolia. So I live in Victoria, British Columbia on the traditional territories of the Quammen speaking peoples. And I have been working with Mongolia. I taught in that first 2019 field school a course on renewable energy in Mongolia. You see a few slides here from that. I now continue to work with the ACMS and help organize the field school. So I'm just sort of the MC and kind of going over the background information. So we have a full-time office in Ulaanbaatar. If you go visit Ulaanbaatar, many of you may have come by our office. We've been running these different programs for a number of years. We have research fellowships. So you can see on our website, the research fellowship programs, those are offered each year. We have a special fellowship for a librarian. If you know anyone who works or you work in a library, we're often looking for people because we do a lot of work training Mongolian libraries and doing different things to try to help Mongolian libraries, as well as Mongolian museums. We do a lot of cultural preservation work, and we're doing a training sessions right now for Mongolian museum professionals in museum conservation. Other programs that we sponsor these research fellowships. So every summer we have 7 or 8 research fellows who come on our fellowships, and then we support other people who come and other groups who come to Mongolia to do research. And you'll hear from Bryan and Chantsaa later, and they're doing a National Science Foundation project. And so we support groups like that come in. We support university groups. We always have groups come from different universities, and we help support them as well. We run a Mongolian language program. So if you want to come and spend some time in Mongolia learning Mongolian language in the summer, we have that program. Or you can take one of our online classes. So some of you may want to take some Mongolian lessons online. So if you contact our office, we can help organize online Mongolian language lessons for you. Every month, if you're not on our mailing list, you should sign up, and you can get the This Month is in Mongolian Studies email that we put out that has like a newsletter that comes out with lots of different information on different conferences, opportunities, and different things in Mongolia, or related to Mongolian studies, I should say, all around the world. So our office is in the Ulaanbaatar City Central Library on Seoul Street near the circus in Mongolia. And we have about 6 people working out of our office there. So there'll be a staff of people who will be helping to organize and run the program. So several of them are joining us today, led by Tufshanzaya, who is going to be our field school sort of lead associate in Mongolia. So this is just a little background. So we've run the courses, and these are some of the participants from the previous courses in Mongolia. And the courses this summer, we have 3 courses in 2 sessions. So you can take one course in either of the sessions, or if you want, and this is based upon people's experience in the past, people said, well, it's so long and so expensive and far to travel to Mongolia when you're traveling internationally. I want to be able to take 2 courses. So we set the schedules of the 2 courses this year to make it easier for people to take 2 courses. So we have a course in early June, and then we have a course in later June up until early July, just before Nadam. So you can take 2 courses, or you can take just one of the 2 sessions. And then the field school, since its beginning, has been open to participants from all countries. We'll have a mix of people from North America, from Asia, from Europe, and Mongolian students and participants. And then the participants include university undergraduate students and graduate students. We've had postdoctoral students, or students sometimes working on their own research projects, but they want to take this time to go to the countryside and experience something, and together with a group of people and some experienced faculty. And then we say lifelong learners, which include K-12 teachers, teachers from different colleges and universities, faculty from Mongolian schools, officials, different people that just say, well, this sounds like a lot more fun than just taking a regular tour, because there'll be this mix of people. And I would say one thing that's definitely different or true about our program and our field school is that this isn't a program where it's just a group of people from, say, one university, American university, that are going on excursion together. This is really a mixed group of people, about half of whom will be Mongolian and half of whom will be international participants. And so it gives you a chance to really get to know each other, to go through the experience together, to learn together, to share, have meals together, and spend a lot of time both in the city and then in the countryside. So it's been interesting. I think the oldest participant was in the past was 75, I think. And so 18 is the minimum age of people to participate. So the range of everyone in between. It's really been an open and very interesting experience. The sharing that goes on in the group is one of the most important parts of the program. Each course will have approximately 20 participants, so 10 to 15 international participants, and then Mongolian participants as well. All of the language of instruction is English. So we will have a couple of Mongolian translators, and some of our instructors will be able to help translate, traveling with us, and when you go to the countryside. So there will be translation, because most of the time we will be working together and interacting with local people, with local officials. but the courses and the core material and the delivery is in English. So you will need to have high proficiency in English in order to be able to participate. You do not have to have gone to Mongolia before. Again, we've had a wide range of people, from people who have been to Mongolia many times, and maybe they just wanted to participate in a new area or learn about something new, as well as people who are just going to Mongolia for the first time. So you don't have to have had a lot of experience in Mongolia in the past. It's okay, and it's quite suited for people on both sides, people who have a lot of experience and people who are new to the country. Participants will make their own travel arrangements to and from Ulaanbaatar. So the program starts in Ulaanbaatar, and we will cover everything basically from the night before the program starts on a Monday morning. We'll start from the Sunday to get everyone together for the international participants in a hotel in Ulaanbaatar. And then on Monday morning, we'll start and we'll do the first few days will be an orientation to both the course and to Mongolia culture, and have a series of speakers. So the group will travel to the countryside as a group. And so all of your accommodations in the countryside, typically we'll be staying in ger camps. So those are camps where we see the pictures like the gers here, where meals will be provided, and you'll stay 2 or 3 people in each ger. So we will be working with you. If someone wants single accommodation, particularly when we're in the hotels, you can let us know and pay a small supplement so that you can have single accommodation. Mostly in the hotel in the city, it'll be double accommodation, and then in the gers, it's usually 3 or 4 people in each ger. We are excited because last summer, you may know, Mongolia was fairly cut off because China and Russia both did not have flights or trains going through. This summer, Mongolia is making big efforts to increase the number of flights. China is opening back up. There will be more flights coming from Seoul and Istanbul through Turkish Airways and through Seoul and Japan and other places as well. So travel to Mongolia should get a lot easier this summer compared to what it's been in the last year or two. So then, as I say, once the program starts, then we make all of the arrangements, and most of your expenses are covered during the program. There's a few meals while you're in the city that wouldn't be covered, but in general, the program will cover your costs. Here's just a few pictures, from Ulaanbaatar. We will be going a couple of the classes in the second session. We'll be going more to the north and west of Ulaanbaatar, and then I believe Bryan, you guys are going more to the west, a little bit south of Ulaanbaatar. But these are the types of vans that the group will be traveling in a series of vans. And having some great experiences mixing things like horseback opportunities to ride horses and visit some of the interesting sites together with your field studies. The 2 sessions this summer, the first session, June 2nd to 15th, is discovering the sonic world of Mongolian countryside. And I'm going to, in a minute, turn it over to each of the instructor sets. And then in session 2, from June 19th to July 4th, the Mongolian Buddhism, Nature and Conservation class, and then Climate Change and Public Health. So those 2 classes will be running at the same time and following in general the same itinerary, but then a bit different topics and speakers and activities as they go along. But there will be then opportunities for the 2 groups to share notes, to have over dinner or some of the other activities, and to be talking with each other, because there are some overlaps in the 2 sessions, or the 2 courses in session 2. So we wanted to run them together. For international participants, the tuition for the program is $3,500, which again, as I said, covers the costs basically of instruction and covers the costs of your housing and most of your meals during the times of the courses. We'll work with you to figure out when you're coming in to Mongolia, and then make sure that all the details, and if you need a pickup, if you need other things, then we can help arrange that while you are when you're coming in. We have the Mongolian participants. We have a different fee schedule and a separate application process. So please check with our Ulaanbaatar office and talk with our staff to go through the process for Mongolian participants. We do want to definitely credit and thank the Henry Luce Foundation, who made this whole field school possible. So the Henry Luce Foundation, since the beginning of the field school, has offered support for a number of scholarships, fellowships for people who are participating in the field school, for both Mongolian participants and for the international participants. And so there will be a number of scholarships available. So if you apply by that March 30th deadline and indicate that you're interested in being considered for a scholarship, we will consider you. There are some people out there who have applied in the past, and as I said, in 2020, people had applied, and then we had to cancel the program. So we are honoring your applications and your past fellowship awards. You just need to let us know if you're someone who had applied previously, because we already have some of your materials and you may want to update those, but we will work with each of the people from 2020 who want to participate in this year's program. So March 30th, priority deadline. That helps us get it sorted out. The final application deadline then is April 30th, so that we can get our course roster set. We will be then notifying people. We'll try to notify you within about 30 days of your application, so on a rolling basis. So if you're interested, go ahead and apply, and then we will notify you. We will make final fellowship awards after we get all the applications in on March 30th. Some people ask about academic credit. So for university students, what's worked out in the past is, so we're not an accredited academic institution in that sense, but what's happened is most people get academic credit through their home university. So you can work with your university, the international office, and or your professor to organize how you can get credit. So each person and each school is a little bit different in this process. All of the people who are teaching have experience working with students and teaching, and can help organize a paper or a takeaway exercise of something that you would have often that you need to get that academic credit. But we're happy to work with you on that. So just let us know if that's something that's of interest, and we can explore different options for how you can get academic credit for participating in the field school. The applications are on the website as well. The information is on the website. So you just have to submit basically a statement of interest that you would have. And, we say experience in remote areas. This is just sort of a reminder to you that we are going to the countryside in Mongolia, which means that you'll be staying in tents. There will be, you're definitely out. The things are organized. We're traveling as a group, but we will be outside of definitely urban areas in some fairly remote areas. So if you have concerns about that, if you have special needs, for example, please let us know, and we can talk to you about what would be available and what's not available. One thing that's not available everywhere is Wi-Fi access. So that's definitely something people can get a little frustrated. There is cell coverage, cell phone coverage pretty much everywhere, but the Wi-Fi does not work perfectly everywhere. But also include your CV and just personal details. For students in particular, optional letter of recommendation can be helpful. And we'll take all of this into consideration. Then for fellowships, we're saying, we're going to be looking for financial needs. So in your statement, discuss your personal situation of financial need or what special impact this program will have. So we are definitely interested in supporting people and supporting a diverse set of people, including people who have traditionally not participated in study abroad activities, or people who have, as they say, circumstances that otherwise would prevent them from coming. We definitely want those fellowships to go to people who it helps you participate in the program. So just whatever information that you can provide would be helpful to us, and we will try to work with you to help people make sure that they can participate. Mongolian applicants have a slightly different application process. It's also available online. Okay, safety and health. We are monitoring COVID. This had a much more extensive piece in years past, but now there are no specific travel restrictions or disruptions anticipated for this year. Mongolia does not have any specific travel restrictions in terms of having to be vaccinated or other things to come in, or testing before you come in. You should be aware and pay attention to what travel restrictions may be in place, not just in Mongolia, but any countries you may be traveling through. Different countries have different rules, so make sure that you're aware of those. As they say, China is in the process of reopening now. Their borders have been closed, their airports have been closed to international flights, but it's starting to reopen. Beijing was always one of the main gateways for people. Another one in the Pacific is Seoul, and some people come through Japan as well. They've been having meetings and talking about vastly expanding the number of flights so that there's a lot more capacity to get travelers to Mongolia this summer. And so we're anticipating that it's going to be a bit easier, and they should be announcing hopefully soon this more of the summer schedule and opening up more flights available. We will have safety, health, and risk management. We're going to go out and go through all the field sites beforehand, understand where medical facilities are, and have a safety, health, and risk management plan in place. If you have particular situations or concerns, we're happy to talk with you about that and work with each person. One thing we say on the meals is, we will be eating together in these different camps. The camps have typically worked with people with some food allergies. If you have food allergies or food risks, be sure to talk with us about that, and we can talk with you about how we can work with that. We'll make, as you say, a final determination. This was sort of in the COVID days. People were always asking, what if it's canceled? We're going to be monitoring this, and by May 1st, we should definitely know whether the program's going ahead. If the program is canceled for any reason, then we will be returning everyone's deposits and all of your money that's been put in for the program. So don't worry about that. If you cancel, there are some different rules in terms of returning money to you. So there'll be a series of deadlines in terms of paying a deposit. Once you're accepted, paying the fees as well. Okay, international participants should have travel insurance. So you will need a travel plan, some sort of travel plan, insurance plan that will be required as part of your sort of application and acceptance. Here's some just pictures from the field. There's our renewable energy class at a solar farm. And these are people visiting the Ger and having a little class session outside. Okay, I will now turn it over to our first set of instructors to talk about the classes. So Bryan and Chantsaa, I will let you guys talk about your class, which is this really interesting class, this National Science Foundation project based on discovering the sonic world of the Mongolian countryside.
Thanks, Charles. That was a really good overview of the program. I'm new to the field school, so that was very informative for me as an instructor to know how this all works. I'm here with two colleagues that would be co-instructors. Dr. Chantsaa, why don't you say hello, wave hello? Okay. And then Sam Lima, who's a PhD student of mine at Purdue University. There's Sam. There she is. Sam was in Mongolia with me last year. She was there for, I think, something like 56 days, got to ride horses and had lots of experiences in the field and in the countryside. Chantsaa is from Mongolia, but she's got a PhD from Colorado State, and she's a rangeland ecologist. I study the sounds of nature, and there's no better place in the world to go other than Mongolia. Not only are there other beautiful sounds of nature, but what's really quite incredible is the way in which the countryside herders experience nature and then use it as a form of kind of entry into this. If you could just hit stop sharing.
Charles, you are muted.
Sorry, yes. So you can still see my slides?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
You should be able to pull down the view options at the very top and stop sharing.
You want me to stop sharing?
Yes.
Okay.
Good. Yeah. So the kinds of experiences that you would have is working with our research team, and I'm going to give you an overview of who these folks are. It's a very large team funded by both the National Science Foundation, NASA, with some additional support from the Fulbright program. So what I want to do here, this is a photo of our team last year after our workshop. Chantsaa, I think this might be you. I can't, or maybe not. But anyway, what I want you to do here as a kind of an exercise is, and you would, if you're on my program, you're going to be listening a lot. You're going to tune your ear quite a bit to the sounds of nature and to the sounds of songs. And you would learn some of these campfire songs, which are really marvelous. Some of them bring you to tears if you've heard them just a few times. But just listen to this. Tell me what you hear. Tell me what you hear. What is the meaning of each sound? And put this in chat. What did everybody hear? Well, I hope harmony. Great. Fire crackling. Yes. A beautiful song. It's marvelous. Harmonizing. A little bit of laughter. There's generally a lot of laughter after a song. Yes, it's the sounds of parents, the heritage that exists in the community is part of the song. The songs are also songs of thanks to the spirits. The songs also reflect the knowledge of the land and how to care for it. As an ecologist, I find that last point really fascinating, that the traditional ecological knowledge of traditional herders have passed on for generations through songs, and the ways in which they're learned is also important. So singers follow after the first. Yeah, there's so much that goes on, and that we are interested in studying this as a means to understand a culture and understand how people are connected to nature. So some of the things that we will do is we will go into the woods with the herders, and they'll tell us stories about different places and the meaning of those places and what they hear and what those sounds mean. They listen to the sounds of the forests, the grasses, the cracking of the ice, the sounds of thunder. It all has a special meaning to them. And what we're trying to do is understand that. So that we have a team of ecologists, cultural anthropologists, ethnomusicologists that are coming together to study this. This sounds like traditional ecological knowledge. Yes, it is, TEK. We call it sonic traditional ecological knowledge. It's embedding the knowledge of the community about nature, the roles of nature in providing everything for the community. I want to give you another chance to kind of have a little bit of an insight as to what we do. The NASA part is to understand how we can use mapping the International Space Station. So NASA's funding us to use the International Space Station sensors to map out the forests. But the forests are dying because of climate change and invasive species. So we want to know, how is the sounds of the forest changing? And then how does that affect the herders? So you can see these connections. But this is one of the beautiful landscapes of Mongolia. It's strikingly beautiful. But you would have the opportunity to spend some time with us in this spot. So what kind of sounds would you hear in this forest? You would hear birds and insects. But if you were to go in here at night, it would sound so different than the sounds during the day. And the herders have different spiritual meanings depending upon the different day, the different seasons, of what they hear. And so we're very interested in studying that. So if you were to join this program, you would actually become research scientists with us. We want to be full partners with you in this co-production of knowledge. And that's what we're doing. This is our research team, composed of scientists from all over the world. A large number of us are Purdue University. We have members from Colorado State, University of Arizona, University of Texas. We have a UNESCO, IUB-based set of team members and some local team members. And then the herders have roles and responsibilities too. They help us to ask questions and pose hypotheses. They are as curious about what we're trying to study as they are. The course components include an orientation and some basics at the very beginning, workshops with local herders in a GARE camp, deployment of acoustic sensors and drone mapping. We'll show you how we're doing it. We're going to do sound walks with scientists, with me and others, and with herders, and they're going to tell you something different than what I hear. I'm going to teach you how to do audio recording at very high end, so you can make recordings, take them back, and actually put them in the background for movies, Hollywood movies. And we're going to tell you how to do analysis, and we want you to do some reflection. A lot what we do is we just explore ideas together with herders and local community leaders, and we go out and have conversations. Here's some of our work last year where we're deploying sensors together. We have acoustic sensors that record every hour of every day, and we have them across the entire province. They're out there working with us to build enclosures. And we're also studying things like the sounds of milking a yak. How does milking a yak with a metal tin differ from milking from an old wooden bucket? And then how does that affect the attachment of this kind of culture of herding to be able to move from something that was an old traditional wooden bucket to a metal tin? And what is it, how does that affect the ways in which the herding community is changing because they listen to? So there's sounds of the herding practice. We also do things like record performances. And so during mini Nodens, we'll round up groups that will come and perform for us. But this is a kind of a mishmash of science and humanities. We have a performance that we recorded last year, And this kind of gives you an idea of where we've recorded and placed all of our acoustic sensors. We have terabytes of data that we're using to match up with our remote sensing imagery from our NASA platforms in space. So that's the introduction to my program, to our program, and eager to hear if you have any questions about it.
Charles, you are muted.
You're muted.
I'm muted. Okay. What an introduction. And then we're all ready to sit by the campfire. So in all the programs, you'll be able to sit by the campfire, but we should all take this course first so that we can, then we'll be able to interpret what we hear as we go through. So any questions for Bryan and Chantsaa about their course? So I put Bryan's email here, and you can always contact us. Anyone, if you have questions about the program overall or any of the courses, just contact the general office at ACMS, and then they'll be in touch. We'll be in touch with everyone on the team. But thank you, Bryan. It was very interesting, and it definitely gets us in the right space. Being in the Mongolian countryside is what it's all about. It's a very, very special place. So in our session 2, we have two courses that are being offered. And I'm going to turn it over now to Betsy and Rebecca to introduce their course on Mongolian Buddhism, nature and conservation. And I mean, Mongolia is such a fantastic place where you see all of these things coming together. And I find it such a fascinating place to be, to experience it, to talk with people. So Betsy.
Thank you. And hello, everybody. This is really wonderful. Thank you for joining us. That course sounded amazing. Absolutely fantastic. And it would be a really good complement to the course that we're conceiving right now. So I just want to introduce myself. I'm going to introduce myself, and then I'd like Rebecca to talk a little bit about herself. We're co-teaching. We've worked together in the past, which is wonderful. And we've also worked with Sue Higgins, who's going to be talking right after us with Cathy Whitlock about their course. We're planning on traveling together and doing as much cross-pollination as possible. So that's something that we're really looking forward to. I worked in Mongolia for 10 years, and I'm a historian. I specialize in cultural perspectives on landscape. So I really look at how cultures perceive lands. And I worked with an organization that worked with lams throughout the Egg-Ur watershed, which is in Hufskull province, on fisheries conservation, looking at how this particular river was perceived by the local community, by the pastoral community, and by the Buddhist community. And we also worked to look at the syncretism between shamanism and Buddhism, which is very specific to the region that we will be spending quite a bit of time in. And this again is in Hufskull province, in the Egg-Ur in Hufskull province. So I'm a historian, as I said, and I am somebody who is absolutely in love with Mongolia. The other person who's going to be working with us is Chimga Luvandash, who worked with our organization when we were all working together, the Tributary Fund. She grew up in Hufskull province, and she is somebody who saw the transition between the communist era and then when Buddhism was once again allowed to be practiced. So we're really excited to have her be traveling with us. Sue and Rebecca and I just had a conversation with her the other day, and she's thrilled to be participating as well. So I think this cross-pollination, the fact that we've been working together for years, is really going to, and that we have a very specific relationship with the place that we're going to be spending quite a bit of time. We also have a fantastic network of LAMs that we're going to be working with, who we've been in relationship with them for years and years. So we're really looking forward to this course, and I'm going to let Rebecca introduce herself, and then we will take you through what we are planning.
Hi, my name is Rebecca Waters, and I am also really, really excited to be here, and after 3 years to be contemplating finally running this course with Betsy. We've done it. We plan to do it in the field. We did it online. We plan to do it in the field again. And so hopefully this year we'll actually get to do it. I came into Mongolia as a Peace Corps volunteer in the year 2000, and I was stationed as an environmental volunteer in the town of Harhorin, which is the place where the oldest extant Buddhist monastery is located in the country. And I spent a lot of time doing environmental work with the national park in the area, but also teaching English at the monastery, hanging out with the monks, talking to them about their perspectives on landscape and their perspectives on the revival of Buddhism after 70 years of repression. And for that reason, among others, the topics of nature and conservation and Buddhism in Mongolia are really kind of inextricable for me. I've maintained a long-term interest in those topics, and I have continued to work in Mongolia over the past 20 years, with, of course, the exception of the pandemic. As most of that has been on wildlife conservation, specifically large carnivore conservation. I've done a lot of stuff on wolverines. I've worked with the national park system and founded a pretty large conservation project in northern Mongolia. So that's me. I love the country. I'm more or less fluent in the language, but with like a specificity towards being really, 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 really capable of discussing things about large carnivores and ecology, and sort of incapable of talking about things that I'm less interested in. So I'm really looking forward to having students over there again, and exploring these topics further with Betsy and with Sue and Cathy and with Chimge and with all of you guys.
So we're going to start in UB with the training, but we're going to, in this course, work with the Gandon Monastery, which is the main monastery in Ulaanbaatar. And again, this is a group that we have been working with for years and years and years. We have very good relationships with them. They worked with us on a conservation project in the early 2000s and into the 2010s. And we were working on fisheries conservation. And it's interesting to hear about the project that Bryan is working on. We worked with Buddhist monks and local pastoralists on ways that they perceived, as I said, landscape and fisheries. And one of the sutras that was translated in this area that was prone to poaching. It wasn't the local people poaching. It was local people being hired by tourists, and primarily Russian tourists and Slovakian tourists who were coming in and wanting to poach the taimen, which is a large fish. And there was a sutra that was translated as this death of one taimen, the fish that we were working to protect, equals the souls of 999 people suffering. And when that became a point that we focused on, and Gandon helped us with that translation, the conservation project became something that was really supported to the community because it became culturally embraced. And so Gandon helped us rebuild a monastery, which I'll get to in a little bit, but I'd like Rebecca to kind of talk about what we're going to talk about in terms of the history of some of the awful purges that happened, and how that relates to perhaps what we're going to be looking at historically. We are going to talk quite a bit about Buddhist history and why Mongolian Buddhism is so unique.
Yeah, I would say that this is, it's a course that could be many things and probably is many things, but it's primarily a historical overview of Buddhism in Mongolia, as opposed to a course for Buddhist practitioners. Although I think both Betsy and I are very flexible about working with students and their interests for what we actually pursue. So as most of you probably know, during the communist era, Buddhism was repressed pretty strongly, and there were purges that took place throughout the country. And we're going to start off by exploring some sites in Ulaanbaatar that are related to that. And then the monasteries themselves, a lot of them were destroyed, some of them were maintained, but put to different purposes. So we'll be talking about that as we travel to these different historical sites. And as we mentioned with Chimge, who was there during the revival of Buddhism and sort of was raised during the communist era, but came out of that era and saw the revival, we'll be talking about what that looked like too, and how people kept these traditions alive, sort of undercover when they weren't really supposed to be.
Next, we will be going to Erdenet, and we will hopefully be having some opportunity to collaborate with Sue and Cathy, and they're going to be talking about their class next. But Erdenet is the site of a very large mine, and there is a monastery nearby that we will go and visit called Amersbaig-Galant, which has a very unique way of practicing Buddhism. And one of the things that we will talk about is how geographically Buddhism really is very different depending on where you are in Mongolia. So we're going to have a chance to see this absolutely exquisite monastery that, as Rebecca said, there were only a few monasteries that were preserved during the era when Buddhism was not practiced, or they tried to push it down. And we will go see Amersbaig-Galant and talk about how that particular type of Buddhism is practiced today, and why it's different than other forms of Tibetan Buddhism in the country. And Rebecca, do you want to say a thing or two about that?
Yeah, I think Amersbaig-Galant is absolutely an incredible, just from an architectural and artistic perspective, is an incredible site to explore. But I think Erdenet is also very interesting because, of course, there is this perception that Buddhism is 100% environmentally, that the environmental ethics in Buddhism are very, very strong. And yet at this site where this massive mine was developed in collaboration with the Russians during the Soviet era, you see a lot of practices that were brought to my attention by Dr. Marissa Smith, a scholar who's done a lot of work on this area. You see a lot of practices that really seek to reconcile exploitation of mineral deposits with Buddhism and shamanic traditions. So Erdenet's a really interesting site too. And of course, the environmental health implications and the human health implications of that site are very interesting as well.
And then finally, we're going to spend a good chunk of our time in the Egg Ore and go to the Dayanderk Monastery, which is a monastery that we were involved in rebuilding with Chimge, who, as I said, grew up there. And this is a site that really will, first of all, we're going to have numerous conversations with local people. We're going to talk to a friend of mine, Jamsranjav, who's a shaman. We're going to look at how shamanism and Buddhism is very much interwoven in this area. Again, it's a type of Buddhism that is unique to this area. And we will go to a cave, and Buddhism and worship in caves is also a really unique sort of feature, and it's not just unique to this area, but there are some wonderful things that we can talk about in terms of worship Buddhism in caves. The Dayanderk monastery is named after a shaman that, according to legend, converted to Buddhism, and it's an interesting story to unpack because it really looks at how Buddhism was a missionizing sort of idea and ideology, and there was a real effort to convert shamans. And so this will be a way in this area that we will have conversation with local people. We will look at local livelihoods. We will talk about shamanism. We will talk about Buddhism. We'll talk about the intersect of all the above. And I'd love, Rebecca has studied ovos, and we'll also talk about ovos. So I'd love to have her explain a little bit about that.
Well, ovos are, for those who don't know, are these stone cairns that serve as the site of kind of landscape worship. So at powerful locations on the landscape, people perform rituals of kind of permission to enter the territory, or appeasement or appreciation. Different kinds of rituals of relationship with the landscape take place at these ovos. And I struggle with how to articulate. I published a paper in a special volume on ovos, and there was literally like a day-long meeting where we tried to define what an ovo was and how it functioned. And it was Mongolian scholars and American scholars, and we did not reach a conclusion. So we will be talking about the ambiguity and the many definitions of ovos, but they do serve as a site of intersection between shamanic and Buddhist practices, because they are a place where both lams and shamans do different and everyday people just casually, you know, going by. Everybody sort of has a role to play in the rituals that happen in these spaces. So I am endlessly fascinated by ovos, and we will definitely spend some time talking about those.
And so I guess Rebecca and I kind of look at ourselves as a little bit of tour guides, and we're going to be really, the voices that are going to be loud and clear are the lams and the shamans and the local people, and we're going to introduce you to them. Our last stop is Har Horam, and we will be talking to Basa, who is the lam of Erdenzu, who has done, it'll be a wonderful way to culminate the course, because this is a real monastery that's done a ton of work on conservation using both Buddhist ideology as well as you know, solar and any number of conservation projects. They have a nature temple. He's fantastic. He's international. I mean, he's very, very well regarded internationally, and so he will sort of to help us tie this course together, and we're thrilled to be working with him. Again, we've worked with him for years, and Har Horam is the ancient capital of Mongolia, so it's a very fitting place to end a course on history, world, you know, religion. I know that's not quite the right way to describe Buddhism, and Mongolian culture. And Rebecca, if you want to finish it up, and then we'll turn it over to Cathy and Sue.
Well, you know, in Mongolia, there is this concept of notik or torsen notik, like the place where you're from, the place where you were born. I was not born in Har Horam, but that was the place where I came into my knowledge of Mongolia. And so being in Har Horam and ending at Erdenzu, that's my notik. So I'm really excited to share that with people. And I do want to emphasize too, I don't see myself so much as a tour guide as a facilitator, but the voices that are most important to me in like bringing forward during this course are the voices of the lams, the shamans, and Mongolian practitioners of these traditions. So that's the role I think that both Betsy and I see ourselves in. So yeah, let us know if you have any questions. I'm always open to receiving those questions over email too. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everybody.
Okay, thank you. Now we'll turn to the third class, which will be offered together. As we said, session 1 has one class, and session 2 we've got the 2 classes running together, so there will be some overlap. So Cathy and Sue, and I know you have your own slides here, so I will turn it over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Charles. I'm Cathy Whitlock, and I'm a professor at Montana State University and also director of the Montana Institute on Ecosystems. And I'll let my colleague and friend introduce herself in a minute, Sue Higgins. I'm the only instructor here that hasn't been to Mongolia. So I'm looking forward to learning and discovering and exploring these landscapes along with you. Our course is climate change and public health, and how did we come upon this? Well, I'm a climate scientist, and I've been involved in doing a lot of climate research over the years, but I've become more and more interested in communicating that science in ways that are understandable and usable and useful to people. And so I've spent a lot of time working on explaining climate change to the people of Montana, a similar landscape to some of the places we're going to see in Mongolia, going from dry areas to really high, beautiful mountains. And that led me to lead the first climate assessment for the state of Montana, explaining how climate change was going to impact our water and our forests and our livelihoods. But healthcare professionals came to me and said, oh, you didn't talk about the most important aspect of climate change, and that's human health. And they were absolutely right. And so Sue and I got together with healthcare professionals, and we wrote a very detailed report on how climate change was going to impact human health in Montana. Now I'm really interested in understanding that topic in other places of the world and remote places of the world, trying to understand the challenges and solutions and how people are dealing with climate change impacts on a day-to-day basis. So our course involves Native Americans from Montana, healthcare professionals from Montana, and Mongolians who are both interested in natural resources and healthcare issues there. Let me turn it over to Sue, and she can tell you a little bit about herself.
Thanks. Thanks, Cathy, and hello to everyone. It's really nice to see you, and I just love hearing about the two other courses. I mean, this is exciting stuff, and I was studying the ACMS website today, and I just think these three courses are pretty fascinating, and it'll be so much fun and so fascinating to be out on the Mongolian landscape with the Mongolian people. We're calling from Bozeman, Montana, Montana State University. My name is Sue Higgins. My field is water resources planning and management. I've spent my career doing different things in that area, but I did in that role have a great experience with Betsy and Rebecca, helping to conduct science exchanges in Mongolia with the Lams and with other conservationists. And it was just fascinating to meet the Lams, travel along the landscape, and learn about the conservation issues in Montana and Mongolia. And I feel privileged to have done that, been there about 5 or I guess 7 times really. And I can't wait to go back. It's been a while. And in the last 5 years, I've been working at the Center for American Indian and Rural Health Equity in Montana. And as Cathy mentioned, we were part of a team that put together this big report on the impacts of climate change on our health in Montana. And we're really anxious to take what we've learned and learn with you as we travel extensively in the Mongolian landscape to talk to herders, public health officials, natural resource managers, and lots of other folks. I wanted to mention before I turn it back over to Cathy that we received Charles, and we worked with Charles to receive a grant from the Trust for Mutual Understanding. And it allows us to bring a physician from Montana who has actually done a ton of work on the impacts of climate change on health. And also a Native American TEK specialist who's going to be with us. She's a climate adaptation specialist, I should say. And then also we're going to have traveling with us as instructors a Mongolian physician and a Mongolian natural resource manager. And so there'll be 6 instructors actually to share knowledge and learn with you actually. And the great thing too is that we as a class are going to be traveling to exactly the same places as Cathy and Betsy and Rebecca's class. So we will try to, as Betsy says, try to cross-pollinate whenever we can. We'll be visiting some of the same monasteries they're going to, but also traveling to other great places, especially medical clinics. I guess with that, we should shoot to the next slide, and I'll turn it back over to you, Cathy.
Yeah, this is just an illustration of the impacts of climate change on human health. And you can think of this as applying to everywhere on the planet. But we're really interested in how it plays out in Mongolia, and in particular in remote places of Mongolia. So you can think at the vortex of this diagram, these concentric circles, you have climate change. We're experiencing rising temperatures, more extreme weather, rising sea level, and increases in greenhouse gases. And then you can go to the outermost circle, and think about how those play out in particular regions and particular places. And that's what we want to know more about. What are the impacts of severe weather? There's a lot of air pollution in the capital city because of all the burning of coal. There's increases in water and insect-borne diseases, changes in people's sensitivities to allergens, issues about water quality, environmental degradation. And then all of those at the broadest, the rays of the circle, are the health impacts. Increases in heat-related illnesses and deaths around the world, but in places that are getting very hot, cardiovascular failure. And you can take it from there, insect-borne diseases, malnutrition, mental health issues. We know a lot about this in places like North America and Europe, but we really would like to have a better understanding of how it plays out in Mongolia. And in particular, how does the public health system in Mongolia and the resource management community cope with the challenges of climate change? And what are some of the solutions that they're exploring? Maybe the next slide, Charles.
Yeah, and just very briefly, I know we're kind of running out of time a little bit, but we are putting together a really interesting reading list for you. And there's some great reports coming out of Mongolia and Montana and, several international organizations. So we'll put you in touch with some great reading, but we have a great team to share information as well. Along with what Betsy and Rebecca were saying, we will begin with some meetings in UB. We're planning to meet with some climate scientists and different conservation organizations in Ulaanbaatar and some medical groups. And then we will travel, all of us together, to Erdenet. And in Erdenet, we'll visit some clinics and also go to the Amers, I can never pronounce this, I always goof it, but to the Amersbach-Galant Monastery. And we'll be staying at a Ger camp there. And along the way, as we travel up into the Agor Valley, we will have interview local herders and public health workers, and be staying in a Ger camp up there for almost a week, where we'll visit with people in the Sum of Erden Bolgon, and travel around in the Agor Valley. And then that's a very mountainous lake environment. It's gorgeous. It's stunning. For those of you who have not been to Mongolia, it's absolutely stunning landscape. But after our time there, we will travel to a more desert environment, to Karakoram, where we will meet with with Basa, a Lam that we've gotten to know quite well, and really talk about the climate impacts in a drier climate. So we're going to be, and along the way, just talk about and meet with public health officials, and then move back to Mongolia, or to, Ulaanbaatar. And we will ask each of you, we want you all each to think about a project you'd be interested in pursuing. And there's no grading or anything like that, but we want to help you explore a question that you have on climate and health as we're traveling. So we will help you do that as a team. I think with that, is there anything else you'd like to add, Cathy? Maybe the last slide there.
Yeah, let us know if you have any questions, or we can give you more information. We hope that you'll join this these two courses, I guess.
Yeah, feel free to get in touch with us anytime.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, and there seemed to be a mix of people when just looking at the chat of which courses people said they were interested in. And I know that in the past, people have often said, well, I could take any of these courses, you know, so there will be a bit of that if you're interested in you know, or a bit unsure which course. There will be a bit of making sure we balance out the numbers of people in different courses. So I think one of the questions we ask you in the application is, would you be open to taking a different course if your first choice course was not available? And the question came up about, you know, being able to kind of cross over and talk with some people from the other programs and talking with some people from the Buddhism side and public health. Yes, this will all be these two courses in this session 2 will be traveling together. So you'll have different focus and have different opportunities. Your group will have different discussions and go on some different excursions to meet with people in the different areas, but then you'll have a lot of common time together as well. So I don't see that it'll be a problem that, you know, there will be cross discussions and things going on. So, you know, there's a big opportunity and a great feeling to have the whole group together. So, all right, well, we should probably wrap up. This is just some information here. You know, the emails, they're on the website as well. You can visit the website. We've got our Facebook site. As we said, some of the courses from 2021 that were offered online are available there. You can see the videos and the different courses by registering through for those. We have our monthly newsletter. We have information on our regular lecture series, which is both online and on site. We post up past, we have a whole YouTube channel where we have past talks that people have given on a variety of topics, including some of the ones from tonight. Facebook is active, Twitter, all the other things. So please, you know, join in. Even if you don't come on the field school, stay in touch. There's going to be field schools with Henry Luce fund support. We're expecting to have field schools in 24 and 2025 as well. So more programs, more courses if you're unable to go this year. You know, make plans for the future year. So thank you all very much, and just be in touch.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, thanks, everybody. Thanks, Charles,
you.
for organizing.
Thanks, Charles.
Thanks, Charles, for organizing. Feel free to ask questions.
And thanks to the ACMS folks in Ulaanbaatar too.
Yes,
Oh,
thank you.
absolutely. Awesome
Yes, if you
job.
guys want in Ulaanbaatar, Tufche, and you guys want to introduce yourselves and say hello.
Can you see me, guys? Okay, so hello, everybody. This is Chantsaa. I'm from the Ulaanbaatar. I'm a project manager here at the ACMS. So all of our team are on the work. So we are working so hard to welcome you guys this summer. So if you have any questions, please let us know. And also if there's any specific needs or things, we would be happy to accommodate if possible. So yeah, so we're so excited to meet you all this summer. Thank you.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Oka. I'm the communications coordinator at the American Center for Mongolia. I also work with Tuksha in Ulaanbaatar office, and I'm working to spread the news about the Mongolia Field School as far and wide as possible, so that we have as more and diverse people to participate in the field schools as possible. And we would love to have you this summer. Thank you for joining this webinar.
Yeah, and as I said as well, we have our fellowships. So this year or in future years, if you're interested, you can look on our website at the research fellowships. So if you have a project that you want to do in Mongolia, and our language school and language classes. So be in touch. Thank you all very much. And we will post this so that it's available. And also happy to take any questions or things you want. So we should probably end the recording here.